Stop. Before you touch your phone, listen. If the first thing you do each morning is scroll, you're not checking updates, you're handing your brain to someone else. Because your morning isn't a neutral moment, it's a launch sequence. And whatever you feed your mind in the first 10 minutes becomes your mood, your focus, and your decisions for the next 10 hours. Think about it. Notifications, headlines, other people's lives. Your nervous system goes on alert before you even stand up. That's why you feel rushed, distracted, and weirdly tired, even on days when nothing hard happened. Here's the truth. Your morning habits don't just start your day. They program you. So if you want to take control back, don't try to be more disciplined. Change the first inputs. Today, do this. When you wake up, give yourself 60 seconds of silence. No screen. Take one deep breath in, slow breath out. Then ask one question. What's the one thing that would make today a win? Write it down. And before you consume the world, create something small. Make your bed, drink water, stretch for 30 seconds. That's it. Because the day doesn't control you. The first 5 minutes do. Fix those and you fix everything that comes after. Act 1. The story of morning in Rome. Picture Rome before sunrise, no applause, no crowds, just stone corridors breathing cold air, and one small lamp trembling in the dark. Marcus Aurelius is awake long before the empire wakes him, and he doesn't rise like a motivational poster or a perfect man. He rises like you do, heavy-eyed, tense, already anticipating what might go wrong. Fatigue sits on his shoulders. Irritation whispers in his ear. Fear waits quietly in the corner, dressed as what's coming next. Outside his chamber, the empire is already pulling at him. Generals with urgent decisions, politics that turns friends into strangers, rumors of betrayal, sickness spreading through the city, and the endless pressure of responsibility measured in millions of lives. And that's the first lesson. Control isn't tested when life is calm. It's tested when the world is loud and demanding. Now breathe with me. Inhale slowly for 4, hold for 2, exhale for 6, and say it with me. I don't react, I respond. Because the first offer the world makes you every morning is always the same offer. Whether you live in ancient Rome or a modern apartment, react. React to the news, react to the messages, react to the demands, react to the fear. And once you start reacting, you don't stop, you become a chain of reflexes, a human notification system. Marcus understood that if he accepted that first offer, he would spend the entire day being steered by whatever arrived first, loudest, or most emotional. So he does something most people never do. He refuses. He delays. He creates a small pocket of silence before the world is allowed to enter. He sits down, wax tablet in hand, and he writes to himself like a man forging armor, not for followers, not for applause, but for survival. He sharpens a rule that cuts through chaos. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. That's not a quote for decoration. That's a filter, a gate, a line in the sand that tells the world, you don't get to use my mouth or my mind without permission. Then he anchors himself with gratitude, not because life is easy, but because gratitude makes you harder to manipulate. When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. And here's the shock: before he tries to govern an empire, he governs himself. Before he deals with conflict, he deals with his own impulses. Before he faces the world, he chooses his stance. So here's your practical move for tomorrow morning. Before you touch your phone, sit up, put your feet on the floor, take one slow breath, and whisper, "Nothing gets access to my mind until I choose." Then write one line on paper. Today, the world will try to pull me with warnness, name it. Because what you can name, you can face, and what you ignore will control you from the shadows. And in the next act, you'll see exactly how modern life controls you without chains. How a single unguarded minute can write the first chapter of your day before you even realize you've handed over the pen. Act 2. The problem: how you get controlled. Let's be brutally honest. Most people don't start their mornings, they inherit them. The day doesn't begin with your goals or your values. It begins with whatever reaches you first. A buzzing screen, a headline designed to alarm you, a message that pulls you into someone else's urgency. And here's the terrifying part. Control rarely feels like control. It feels like just checking. It feels harmless. It feels normal. But that's how the trap works. One survey found that about 81% of people check their phone within 10 minutes of waking up, which means the average mind begins the day not as a leader, but as a receiver. And when you begin as a receiver, you spend the rest of the day reacting to signals you didn't choose. Now pause, reset with me. Inhale for 4, hold for 2, exhale for 6, and say it with me. Inputs are not orders. Because the moment you treat inputs like orders, you become programmable. Here's the pattern, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. You wake up and take in information before you choose direction. That information triggers emotion. Emotion triggers impulse. Impulse becomes behavior, and behavior becomes your identity for the day. That's why one notification can poison your mood for hours. That's why one comparison can shrink your confidence before breakfast. Your brain thinks it's being informed, but it's actually being trained. Trained to chase novelty, trained to chase approval, trained to chase danger. This is not weakness, it's biology. Every alert is a tiny lottery ticket, and your brain's reward system loves the possibility of a reward. Sometimes it's good news, sometimes it's validation, sometimes it's drama, but the uncertainty itself becomes addictive, and soon you're checking without deciding. A 2024 report described the average person checking their phone around 205 times a day, nearly once every few minutes while awake. Think about what that means. That's not communication, that's interruption as a lifestyle. And interruptions are not cheap. Research is often cited to suggest it can take around 23 minutes to fully return to a task after a distraction. So when you tell yourself, I'll just look for a second, you may be paying with a chunk of your attention so large you'll feel it as anxiety, fog, and that ugly sensation of being behind all day. Now here's the shock moment, because this is where people get defensive. You think you're controlling the phone, but the phone is controlling the sequence of your mind. You're not choosing your first thought. You're not choosing your first emotion. You're not choosing your first priority. You're accepting whatever arrives. Marcus Aurelius would call this slavery without chains. He warned himself again and again that the battlefield is internal, and a famous line attributed to him is often translated as, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." So ask yourself, with total honesty, if you have power over your mind, why are you handing it over to the first notification that shows up? And it gets darker when the first input is fear. Doom scrolling isn't just bad vibes. Even Harvard health experts have discussed how doom scrolling can feed anxiety and dread. Because when you start your morning training your brain to scan for danger, your brain keeps scanning all day. Your body becomes ready for a threat that isn't even in the room. Your shoulders tighten. Your breathing gets shallow. Your patience gets shorter. And then you wonder why you snapped at someone you love, why you can't focus, why you feel exhausted without doing anything. Here's another reset. Do it right now. Drop your shoulders, unclench your jaw, take one slow breath, and say it with me. I will not be rushed by noise. Good. Because this is the real problem. If your morning begins with inputs, your day becomes other people's outputs, their priorities, their emotions, their agendas. And the worst part is, you'll think it's your personality. You'll say, I'm just anxious, or I'm just distracted, or I'm not disciplined. No, your first chapter was written by something else. So here's your practical move before we go to the solution. For the next 24 hours, turn off every non-essential notification, social, news, promos, anything that doesn't protect your safety or your family, and then place your phone outside arm's reach when you sleep. Make it slightly inconvenient, because convenience is how control sneaks in. And tomorrow morning, when your hand reaches out on autopilot, you'll feel the gap, the moment where choice returns. That gap is where freedom starts. And in Act 3, I'm going to give you the exact 5 to 7 minute Stoic ritual Marcus would recognize immediately. 4 steps that turn you from reactive to unshakable, so you don't just survive the day you command it. Act 3, the habit, the Stoic morning command. You've seen the pattern, now you need the antidote. Not motivation, because motivation is a mood, and moods are easy to manipulate. You need a command, a ritual so small you can't make excuses, yet so sharp it cuts through the noise. Marcus Aurelius didn't wake up asking, "How do I feel?" He woke up asking, "Who will I be?" That single shift is the difference between being controlled and being unshakable. First, reset with me. Inhale for 4, hold for 2, exhale for 6. Say it with me slowly. I choose first. Good. That sentence is your gate. Step 1. Delay inputs, 60 seconds. Before you check your phone, before you open your inbox, before you let the world speak, sit up. Feet on the floor. One slow breath. You're not doing this to be productive. You're doing this to be free. Then say out loud if you can, or in a whisper if you must. Nothing gets access to my mind until I choose. This is the first victory of the day, choosing to not be hijacked by the first signal. Think of it like this. If your mind is a city, the first notification is not a guest. It's an invading army. Marcus would never open the gates without deciding who enters. Now reset again, shoulders down, jaw unclenched, and say it with me. Inputs are not orders. Step 2. Name the controllers, 90 seconds. This is where most people stay weak, because they keep everything vague. Vague enemies win. Specific enemies can be fought. Ask yourself one question. What tries to control me today? Not stress, not life. Name the hook. Is it the urge to scroll, the need to impress, the fear of disappointing someone, the craving for comfort, the anger you're carrying from yesterday? The voice that says later every time you try to do something hard? Write one sentence, one clean line. Today I will be pulled by weird. Trying. Because what you can name, you can face. What you ignore controls you from the shadows. Here's a number to make this real. A 2024 report described people checking phones around 205 times per day on average. 205. That's not a device anymore. That's a behavior pattern. So when you name the urge to check, you're naming a real force that hijacks minutes, then hours, then whole seasons of your life. Reset moment. One deep breath. Say it with me. If I can name it, I can tame it. Step 3. Pre-decide your virtues, 2 minutes. This step is pure stoicism. Marcus didn't trust feelings to lead him, because feelings change with weather, sleep, and other people's opinions. Instead, he chose virtues principles that stay steady when life shakes. Write 4 short lines. Keep them simple, sharp, and honest. Wisdom. What matters most today is essence. Justice. I will treat people with arn. Courage. The uncomfortable thing I won't avoid is done. Discipline. I will not bargain with blank. And then seal it with a stoic blade Marcus used to cut through temptation. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. That line is a filter for your mouth, your clicks, your impulses, and your choices. Reset. Hand on chest. One slow breath, say it with me. Virtue first. Mood second. Step 4. The first hard action, 60 seconds. This is the moment you prove you're in control. Not with talk, with action. Choose one hard thing you will do before noon. Not 10. 1. 20 minutes on your hardest task before social media. A workout, even short. The difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Cleaning the one mess that keeps draining your energy. Studying the topic you keep meaning to start. Then say it like an oath. Before noon I will one. Iuant. Because the day obeys the person who moves first. And when resistance shows up, as it always will, remember the line that turns obstacles into fuel. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, the thing you keep avoiding is not just your problem. It's your training ground. One last reset inhale. Exhale, say it with me. I move first. Now here's your practical assignment for tomorrow. Set a timer for 7 minutes. Put your phone face down, out of reach. Do step 1 through step 4 exactly once. No perfection, just completion. Then write 2 numbers on the page. Your reactivity from 1 to 10 and your recovery from 1 to 10, how fast you return to your plan when distractions appeared. Because in Act 4, we're not going to guess whether this works. We're going to measure what changes in 7 days when you stop starting your mornings as a receiver and start living them as a commander. Act 4. Real-life application. What changes in 7 days? Let's turn this from a nice idea into a measurable transformation. Because if you can't measure it, your brain will dismiss it as just another motivational video, and you'll go right back to being controlled by the same morning pattern. Stoicism is not about feeling inspired. It's about building a life that holds steady when inspiration disappears. First, understand what you're up against. If a huge share of people check their phone within minutes of waking, it means most minds begin the day in response mode, not command mode. And response mode spreads fast. You respond to your phone, then your inbox, then the tone of someone else's message, then the stress of the news, and suddenly you're living inside other people's priorities. One report cited that about 81% of people check their phone within 10 minutes of waking. That's not a small habit. That's a mass ritual of surrender. Now reset with me. Inhale for 4, hold for 2, exhale for 6, and say it with me. I return to my plan. Here's what changes over 7 days, and it doesn't happen by magic. It happens because you're training recovery, your ability to regain control quickly after a pull. That's the real metric, because distractions don't disappear, but your relationship to them does. Day 1, awkward silence. The first morning feels strange. Your hand reaches for the phone like it's attached to a string. You might feel impatient, even irritated. That irritation is your nervous system losing its usual dopamine drip. You're not failing, you're detoxing from noise. Reset, shoulders down, exhale longer than you inhale, and say it with me. Stillness is strength. Day 2, you notice the hook. You begin to see the moment the urge appears. That's important because urges love darkness. The second you see the hook, it loses some power. You're building awareness before impulse. That is self-control in real time. Day 3, less emotional whiplash. You still get triggered, but the trigger doesn't own your whole morning. You recover faster. You stop spiraling as long. And this matters because interruptions are expensive. Attention research is often cited to suggest it can take around 23 minutes to fully return to a task after being interrupted. So the win isn't, I never got distracted. The win is, I came back sooner. Reset, one deep breath, and say, I come back faster. Day 4, you protect your first hour. Something subtle happens. You start feeling defensive of your attention in a good way. You become less willing to donate your morning to other people's urgency. This is where confidence starts to feel quiet and stable. Not loud, not performative, just solid. Day 5, more focus, fewer impulsive decisions. You're not fighting yourself as much. Your day feels cleaner, less scattered, and you start doing the hard thing earlier. Remember your step 4 oath. Before noon, I will. By day 5, many people notice that when they win the morning, the rest of the day becomes easier, not perfect, easier. Reset. Inhale, exhale, say it. I move first. Day 6, you handle people better because you're less reactive. You pause before snapping. You don't people please as quickly. You choose your response. Marcus would approve because his discipline wasn't just personal, it was moral. He believed your behavior toward others is where character proves itself. Day 7, evidence. Not perfection, evidence. You can point to moments where you paused, chose, and returned. That is the beginning of freedom, not a life without pressure, but a mind that doesn't get bought by pressure. Now anchor this with Marcus himself. When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. That line isn't sentimental. It's strategic. Gratitude stabilizes the mind. A grateful mind is harder to provoke, harder to bait, harder to control. Here's your 7-day tracking challenge, and this is what turns the ritual into real change. Every morning after step 4, write 2 numbers from 1 to 10. Reactivity, how easily did I get pulled today? Recovery, how quickly did I return to my plan? Your goal is not 10 out of 10 calm, your goal is recovery improving. Because recovery is the skill that will save your life over years at school, at work, in relationships, in every hard season. Reset one last time. Inhale, exhale, say it with me. Return to the path. Good. Act 5, common mistakes. Why people quit. Here's what's going to happen almost predictably right when this starts working. Your mornings will feel steadier, your attention will feel stronger, and then your mind will try to sabotage you with a lie that sounds mature. This isn't worth it. That's not wisdom. That's the old pattern fighting for its throne. Because once you stop being controlled, something inside you loses its favorite excuse. I had no choice. So let's expose the 3 mistakes that make people quit, and the stoic fix that keeps you consistent even when your mood collapses. Reset with me first. Inhale for 4, hold for 2, exhale for 6, and say it with me. I don't need perfect. I need repeatable. Good. Mistake number 1, they make it huge. They take a 5 to 7 minute command and inflate it into a 90-minute new life routine with 10 habits, cold showers, journaling, stretching, reading, affirmations, and a sunrise run. That's not discipline. That's self-sabotage disguised as ambition. Your brain hears too much, and it rebels, and then you conclude you're the problem. You're not the problem. The design is. Stoicism isn't a performance, it's a practice. Marcus didn't build an empire of habits, he built an empire of principles. So keep it small, keep it sharp, 5 to 7 minutes. That's the blade. Now reset one breath and say it with me. Small, daily, unstoppable. Mistake number 2, they wait to feel motivated. They think the ritual should feel good first. But Stoicism doesn't begin with mood. It begins with duty. If you only do the command when you feel like it, then your feelings are your ruler, meaning you're still controlled, just by a softer tyrant. Marcus wrote the standard in a way that leaves no room for negotiation. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Notice what's missing. If you feel inspired. Stoicism is simple, do what is right, not what is convenient. So if you wake up tired, do the command tired. If you wake up stressed, do the command stressed. If you wake up annoyed, do the command annoyed. That's the point. Reset with me, inhale, exhale, say it. Virtue first, mood second. Mistake number 3, they miss one morning and call it failure. This one is deadly because it feels logical. You miss a day and you label yourself, I'm not disciplined. That label becomes permission to quit. But the Stoic mind doesn't worship streaks, it worships return. The real skill is not never falling off the path. The real skill is coming back fast. Marcus captured this idea with a line that hits like a hammer. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, the obstacle is not the end, it's the training. Missing a morning isn't proof you can't change. It's the exact moment you practice returning without drama. And here's the fix. Simple enough to remember at 6 a.m., strong enough to change your life. The 2-day rule. Never miss twice. Miss once and you restart the next morning. No guilt speech, no punishment. No, I'll fix my whole life Monday. Just return. Because 1 miss is an event, 2 misses becomes a pattern, and patterns are how control rebuilds itself. Reset, say it with me slowly, like an oath. Never miss twice. Now I want you to picture tomorrow morning, because this is where the battle actually happens. Your alarm goes off. Your hand reaches out automatically, like the phone is oxygen. That moment right there is your crossroads, and you're going to hear the world's oldest offer, react. React to the notifications, react to the noise, react to the fear, react to whatever someone else decided was urgent. But you have a Stoic answer ready. A famous line often attributed to Marcus is, you have power over your mind, not outside events. So you don't fight the world, you govern your gate. Here's your practical closeout exercise for tonight. Charge your phone outside your bed, even if it's just across the room, and place a pen and paper exactly where your phone usually sits. That small physical change is a psychological ambush in your favor. It creates friction for the old habit and ease for the new one. Then when you wake up, you do step 1 before anything else. Feet on the floor, 1 breath, and you say, nothing gets access to my mind until I choose. Final reset, inhale, exhale, say it with me. I choose first. And here's your call to action, clear and simple. If you're ready to stop being controlled by your mornings, like this video, subscribe to Making Life Better, and comment, "I choose first," so you make it public to yourself. Share this with one friend who wakes up anxious, scattered, or stuck in the same loop, because one share can change someone's entire week. Then rewatch this tomorrow morning before you touch your phone and do the 4 steps with me, because repetition is how freedom becomes your default. The world will offer react again at sunrise, and your quiet victory will be the same answer every time. No, I command.